Hey everybody, here we are, week 18, working with others. This is an interesting chapter. Eric does a phenomenal job breaking it down, and I think what you're going to gather from this is we have to have pretty good communication skills when it comes to working with others. So I can't even believe it. 18 weeks in, next week, week 19, and I will see you then.
What's up, guys? It's good to be back. Let's ground ourselves with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, so we're in chapter 7. We're on page 89, and this whole chapter deals with what we call today sponsorship. They did not call it sponsorship back then. Back then, this book was launched on the world tide of alcoholism, as Bill W. likes to call it. And people went out and they bought this book and they worked with these steps on their own, what's in here, and a fellowship grew up that way around them. But what's really important about this chapter, so if you notice, step 1 was 4 chapters. It was the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, and more about alcoholism. That was all step 1. The rest of the steps in between all had a few pages dedicated to them. This is the only other step 12, that has a whole chapter dedicated to it. It's pretty important. And what this chapter does is it tells us exactly how we should be meeting people and exactly how we should be carrying this message. And what it also does is it tells us not how to carry the message. So it tells us how to not carry the message. Like, what's almost as important as what this says is what it doesn't say. And you can ask me questions about that later, what I mean by that. But anybody who's actually worked these steps and sponsors people will understand what I mean by that. Because there's a lot of stuff that sponsors do today and a lot of stuff that's developed over the years, and a lot of stuff that's come from rehab into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that has sponsors doing stuff that just doesn't line up with what I read in this book. So we're going to start on page 89, chapter 7, working with others. Practical experience. So this isn't, we're going to stop right there with those first 2 words, practical experience. So this isn't a theory. This isn't like we think this will happen. This is the practical experience of the first 100. Shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with alcoholics. Nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking than intensive work with alcoholics. It does not say doubling down on meetings will ensure, immunity from drinking. Nothing will assure it like working with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. And now I'm going to stop right here. It says carry this message. And we went over this a few weeks ago, but the word this means they've already told us. They've told us in those 12 steps. And this message, I'm going to repeat it again because I believe that it bears repeating, is that if you work these 12 steps fearlessly and thoroughly, you will have a spiritual experience that will be significant enough to bring about a complete psychic change, which is an improved shift in thought and behavior, or a personality change, the book calls it. And that personality change will be significant enough to bring about recovery from alcoholism. That's this message. Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. And so it says to watch a fellowship grow up around us. And the way a fellowship grows up about me is because of the work we do together. That's how a fellowship grows up around us. It's because of the work we do together. A fellowship grows up around me because I take someone through the steps, they take someone through the steps, that person takes someone through the steps, and so on. That's how a fellowship grows up around me. Perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They will be only too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You will be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish, but it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate, never criticize. To be helpful is our only aim. Now, a few things here. This book was written before the fellowship, really, so it's telling us where we can find alcoholics, doctors, ministers, priests, hospitals. Today they're literally bringing them to us on vans. You've got a rehab in every city, in every town practically. We don't have this problem anymore of needing to really seek them out. They're coming to us at every meeting hall. But it goes on when it says you can learn much from them, but it happens that because of our own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate, never criticize. And that's really important. It says to be helpful is our only aim. So yeah, we say, look, I'm doing this to ensure my sobriety, but right here it says to be helpful is our only aim. We have a genuine desire to help others. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity. So I'm not chasing down a guy that doesn't want to get sober, because it's not going to work, for one. And there's a lot of other people I can help. When he's ready, when the pain gets great enough, they'll seek it out. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. If there's any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. Get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned. This is something that's not really practiced today because they're not coming to us so much through families. Every guy that I get usually comes through either a rehab or walks in off the street to AA, to the rooms of AA. It's not like a family member seeking us out, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes it is wise to wait until he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he is in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't deal with him when he is very drunk unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of a spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let his family or a friend ask him if he wants to quit for good, if he would go to any extreme to do so. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. You should be described to him as one of a fellowship who has a part of their own recovery, try to help others, and who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. So again, this was written in a time where nobody knew about Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't around. And people were reading this book and going to a family member and saying, hey, there's this plan. There's these people out there. If he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him. Never should the family hysterically plead with him to do anything, nor should they tell him much about you. They should wait for the end of his next drinking bout. You might place his book where you can see it in the interval. Here, no specific rule can be given. The family must decide these things, but urge them not to be over anxious, for that might spoil matters. Usually, the family should not try to tell your story. When possible, avoid meeting a man through his family. Approach through a doctor or an institution is a better bet, and that's no problem today. Again, rehabs, detoxes. If your man needs hospitalization, he should have it, but not forcibly unless he is violent. Let the doctor, if he will, tell him he has something in the way of a solution. When your man is better, the doctor might suggest a visit from you. Though you have talked with the family, leave them out of the first discussion. Under these conditions, your prospect will see he is under no pressure. He will feel he can deal with you without being nagged by his family. Call on him while he is still jittery. He may be more receptive when depressed. Now, here we're about to get in, from right here on, we're getting into how to actually sponsor that guy, how to actually talk to him, what we should be doing, how to take him through these steps. And it's going to tell us exactly And, we ask, well, what do I say? How do I start? Well, it's going to tell us that right here. First, see your man alone if possible. At first, engage in general conversation. After a while, turn the talk to some phase of his drinking. Tell him enough about your drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences to encourage him to speak of himself. If he wishes to talk, let him do so. You will thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. If he is not communicative, give him a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit, but say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. So right here it's telling us, look, this automatically debunks the whole be quiet and listen to me approach. Completely debunks that right now, because they're telling us, tell him enough. It says at first engage him in general conversation. It goes on, if he wishes to talk, let him do so. If he wishes to talk, let him do so. You will thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. If he is not communicative, give him a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit, but say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. So we're not talking about recovery to him yet. We're letting the guy talk, letting him tell me about his drinking. Say nothing for the moment of how this was accomplished. If he's in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you. Being careful not to moralize or lecture. So if he's in a serious mood, go ahead and war story with him. That's how I get his attention. Tell him about what alcohol did to you. I tell him what the messes that it put me in. But I'm careful not to speak in terms of good or bad. I don't want to moralize or lecture. I'm just speaking in matter of fact, facts of life. This is how it was. I'm not going, well, it was good, it was bad. This is how my life was when I was drinking. If he's in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you, being careful not to moralize or lecture. If his mood is light, tell him humorous stories and escapades. Get him to tell you some of his. Again, encourage him to talk, right? And war story with the kid, with the guy, girl, whatever, whoever your sponsee is. When he sees you know all about the drinking game, commence to describe yourself as an alcoholic. So here I'm going to give it a title. Once I've got his attention, I'm telling him, I'm speaking in matter-of-fact terms to him, telling him the way it was, and then he understands that I know about the drinking game. He can see that I drank with him, and then I'm saying, yeah, well, I'm an alcoholic. And I'm just admitting to you, I'm telling you, I'm an alcoholic. So describe yourself as an alcoholic. Tell him how baffled you were, how you finally learned that you were sick. Give him an account of the struggles you made to stop. Show him the mental twist, the obsession that leads to the first drink of the spree. We suggest you do this as we have done it on the chapter on alcoholism. If he is alcoholic, he will understand you at once. So we share our story. We show him our allergy. We show him our obsession. We show him our hopelessness. And if he's a real alcoholic, he's going to match it with some of his. And then we tell him exactly what's wrong with him, right? So it says, we suggest you have do this in the way we have done it in the chapter on alcoholism, which means we explain to him the allergy and the obsession. If he is alcoholic, he will understand you at once. He will match your mental inconsistencies, your insanity. He will match your insanity with some of his own. If you are satisfied he's a real alcoholic, and this is my job here, it says, we're not to label someone an alcoholic, but I have to satisfy myself that he's a real alcoholic and that I'm going to help before I commence this with him. It says, if you are satisfied that he's a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. Show him from your own experience how the queer mental condition, which means the theory of the obsession, how the queer mental condition surrounding that first drink prevents normal functioning of the willpower. So the mental obsession prevents the execution of my will. That's the obsession, and I'm going to describe that to him. Don't at this stage refer to this book unless he has seen it and wishes to discuss it. Be careful not to brand him as an alcoholic. Let him draw his own conclusion. If he sticks to the idea that he can control his drinking, tell him that he possibly can if he is not too alcoholic, but insist that if he is severely afflicted, there may be little chance he can recover by himself. So it says, be careful not to brand him as an alcoholic. Let him draw his own conclusion. And here's where we can ask him the questions from page 44. At the beginning of this whole thing, on page 44, it said to us, If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely because of the obsession, or if when you're drinking, you have little control over the amount you take because of the allergy, you are probably alcoholic. That's what I'm finding out. Those are the questions I'm asking him. That's how we're going to determine if he's an alcoholic or not, right? So those are the questions I'm gonna ask him. But I let him draw his own conclusion. Where was I? Then there may be, if he is severely afflicted, there may be little chance he can recover by himself. Continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, a fatal malady. Talk about the conditions of the body and mind which accompany it. Again, the allergy and obsession. So I'm going to keep talking to him. I need to tell him, I need to explain the allergy and the obsession while I'm talking to him, that this is what I found was wrong with me, that I have this allergy and obsession. This is why. So I've gotten his attention by by war storying with him and telling him all the things that he can relate to, the insanity of drinking. And then I'm telling him what I learned about myself. This is how I gain his trust and his attention. So we talk about the conditions of the body and mind which accompany it, which is the allergy of the body, the obsession of the mind. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Not what somebody told me. I keep it on my personal experience, how that made sense to me. When they explained the allergy and the obsession to me, it made sense because I couldn't stop drinking once I picked one up. And then when I had stopped, a day later, I'm picking one up again. And I talk to him this way. And he's going to start saying, yeah, that's me. I understand that. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. Doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patients the whole story unless it serves some good purpose. Doctors don't like to tell you you've got a fatal thing, you're going to die here, you're doomed, because they don't offer a solution for it. We offer a solution, right? But doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patients the whole story unless it will serve some good purpose. But you may talk to them about the hopelessness of alcoholics because of alcoholism, because you offer a solution. You will soon have your friend admitting that he has many, if not all, the traits of the alcoholic. If his own doctor is willing to tell him that he's alcoholic, so much the better. So even though your protege may not have entirely admitted his condition, he has become very curious to know how you got well. So I'm going to go back for a minute. So this is my job, is to disturb him about his alcoholism. That's what I want to do. I want to disturb him about his alcoholism by pointing out what I went through with mine. And then I can disturb him about that because I offer a solution to it. So we can talk this way to him because we can say, no, this is how terrible this is, and this is how we're doomed, but here's a solution. So let him ask you the question, if he will. Tell him exactly what happened to you. Stress the spiritual feature freely. If the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your own conception of God. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. So right above this, it says, tell him exactly what happened to you. He's not talking about what happened to me in the war stories and how I got here. That I talked to him about also. But now we're talking about the solution. Let him ask the question. He's become very curious to know how you got well. Let him ask that question, if he will, and tell him exactly what happened to you. Well, what happened to me? I found a power that could do for me what I couldn't. That's what happened to me. I found a power by which I could live without drinking and taking drugs. And that's what I tell him. Later on, I'm going to tell him about that power and how I discovered that power. So tell him he can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he live by spiritual principles. So I'm going to get him to recognize and admit that he's an alcoholic. And then we tell him the need for a spiritual experience only after we've gotten his attention about being an alcoholic. So we can only tell him about the spiritual experience after he concedes that he's an alcoholic. When dealing with such a person, you had better use everyday language to describe spiritual principles. There's There's no use arousing prejudice he may have against certain ideological or theological terms and conceptions about which he may already be confused. Don't raise such issues no matter what his own convictions are. So remember earlier when Ebby Thatcher went to Bill W. Said he did no ranting. He spoke, Bill W., complete quote, he spoke in a matter-of-fact manner. And that's what got Bill's attention. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're using everyday language. We're not arousing any prejudice by using, all these religious terms from the Bible and this and that. That's not what we're doing here. We're just trying to talk to him about alcohol, about his and my alcohol problem. Your prospect may belong to a religious denomination. His religious education and training may be far superior to yours. In that case, he is going to wonder how you can add anything to what he already knows. But he will be curious to learn why his own convictions have not worked and why yours seem to work so well. So you may get somebody in here who's a churchgoer who knows it has a relationship with God, or whatever, and they're going to wonder, well, how come mine's not working for me with this, but yours is? How come how come God's not keeping me sober? So he'll be curious to know why, if his own convictions have not worked and why yours seem to work so well. He may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. And that we were told on page 83. We have to live it. It has to, what does it say on page 83? On page 83, it told us, it said, the spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. That's what it says on page 83, and that's what it's telling me here. This isn't, I have to live this program. It's not just a pleasant moment. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. Let him see that you are not there to instruct him in religion, not there to instruct him in what to believe or what to believe in or dogma or theology. Admit that he probably knows more about that than you do, but call to his attention the fact that however deep his faith and knowledge, he could not have applied it or he would not drink. Perhaps your story will help him see where he has failed to practice the very precepts he knows so well. I mean, there must be something wrong if that's not working for you, your faith. And you're coming here to us, and why is that not working for you? So I heard a Catholic priest say one time, I told you guys this story, I think, a while ago, but this is really apropos to this. I heard a Catholic priest in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous say, look, if I had come in here and you guys had told me I just need to let go and let God, I would have said fantastic. And I would have gone home, and with my hands at my side, I would have said, okay, God, I'm now ready to let you make me sober. And he said I would have died drunk because God's not going to come down and do a fourth and a fifth step for me. God's not coming down and making amends for me and going out and making these amends for me. I have to do that. Faith without works is dead. And this is exactly what this is telling us, and this is how you can put it to that guy who, I mean, I've sponsored guys that are churchgoers and that really know, and they're baffled why that's not working for them. So we represent no particular faith or denomination. We are dealing only with general principles common to most denominations. So we outline the program of action, explaining how you made a self-appraisal, 4, 5, 6, and 7, those steps. How you straightened out your past, that's steps 8 and 9, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him, step 12. And then it says, it is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Actually, he may be helping you more than you're helping him. So you talk to him about the program. We take him by the hand. We walk him through it. It's suggesting here that we do exactly what the first 100 did. And this book was actually the first 100's 12 step to the world, really. And we're telling him exactly what we did. We make it plain he is under no obligation to you, that you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. So it says here, you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of others ahead of his own. And I'm going to go back a minute. It says, where was I? All right, well, let me just go on. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. And this was me, man. My life was spent in reckless disregard for the welfare of those around me. And this is telling me to do the exact opposite. I put the welfare of others ahead of my own. And this whole principle of helping other people and the way this fellowship works here, it's, you know, you hear and hear all the time, we're going to love you until you learn to love yourself. But that's not what any of this tells me. This tells me we're going to love you until you learn to love someone else besides yourself. That's what this whole thing's telling me. That's what this whole program's about. It's about getting out of ourselves and helping and loving our fellow man. And being sincere and having a sincere desire to help. So we're going to love you till you learn to love someone else. Truly love someone else. So make it clear that he's not under pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. You should not be offended if he wants to call it. You should not be offended if he wants to call it off, for he has helped you more than you have helped him. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. He will be more likely to follow your suggestions. Again, my job here is to disturb him about his alcoholism. When we can do that, because we offer a solution, and it tells us right here, maybe you have disturbed him, and that's a good thing. Your candidate may give reasons why he need not follow all of the program. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which requires discussion with other people. Do not contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have made such progress had you not taken action. So this is the sponsee that's like, well, I'm going to do this one and that one, but I really don't want to do those, and I don't want to, and you know, you do, that's fine. These are suggestions, but it's not going to, for me, it would have never worked if I didn't take all 12 of the suggestions. So that's what it's saying. Do not contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have had made much progress had you not taken action. On your first visit, tell him about the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. If he shows interest, lend him your copy of this book. Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Again, it's not, hey, no, be quiet and just put the, cotton in your ears, whatever they say, and cotton in your mouth and open your ears, or whatever those sayings are they say in the meetings. You've heard them, Tom. No, it's telling me let the guy talk. Nobody's listened to this guy in forever. Let him talk. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he's likely to say you rushed him, which I found this to be true. So this whole next part is telling us just not to be heavy-handed with him. We don't want to be heavy-handed with him, man. This guy's beat up. He's coming in here. He didn't come in here because he had a bad weekend. He's coming to us because he had a bad decade, probably. He's in the gutter. Don't be heavy-handed with him. You will be the most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. So again, we're not talking in terms of good or bad. We're talking in terms of facts of life. Show him how they worked with you, offer him friendship and fellowship, and tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. A complete willingness to be of service to this guy. If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or as nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. I always say when the pain gets great enough, you do the work, right? And I've had to do this. I've had guys that I've sponsored that they think you're their, they're not really serious about it, but they want you to keep them on their feet. And it was told to me, and I repeat it all the time, we carry this message. We carry the message, not the alcoholic. That's what we do. I'm not here to carry the alcoholic. I'm here to carry the message. If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval. After doing that, he must decide for himself whether he wants to go on. He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends. If he has defined God, the desire must come from within. Okay, so you get these guys who want to just call you all the time. They don't want to do the steps. They want to talk to you all the time. They got this going on, and my wife does this. And I found myself just talking, but they never want to get started on the steps. And I tell you, you can't talk your way into recovery. It doesn't work that way. I have to work these steps. So, after a certain point, if we're not doing the steps, you're going to have to, I'm going to have to let you go, because I work these steps with men who are dying of alcoholism. And that's what it is. And there's many of them out there that need us. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked with us. But point out that we alcoholics have much in common and that you would like, in any case, to be friendly and let it go at that. So we're going to stop there. Yeah, that's a good stopping point. We're going to stop there for tonight, and we'll pick it up again next week.